Welcome to Boring Folk Tales, where stories are told slowly, softly, and with just enough magic to help you drift away. Here you'll find no rush, no noise, just calm voices, gentle stories, and timeless tales from across the world. So find a comfortable spot, let your shoulders loosen, and let your thoughts drift like clouds. Tonight's story is from the ancient tales of Arabian Nights, a gentle retelling of The Fisherman and the Genie, a story of patience, wisdom, and kindness that shines softly, like moonlight over the sea. Now, close your eyes, breathe slowly, and let the story begin. Part 1. The Old Fisherman and the Sea. The stars seemed closer to the earth back then, and the nights were filled with stories carried on the wind. By the edge of a quiet village, there lived an old fisherman. He was neither rich nor poor, simply content, like the tide that came and went. Each morning, before the sun rose, he would walk along the quiet shore, barefoot, the sand cool beneath his feet. The sea would whisper to him, a soft, familiar voice he had heard all his life. He carried a small, worn net over his shoulder. The rope was frayed, and the weights had dulled from years of salt and sun, but to him it was precious, his companion through countless dawns and endless waves. The fisherman had a simple rule. He would cast his net only 4 times each day, never more. He believed that the sea, like life itself, should not be pressed for more than it wished to give. That morning, as the first light stretched across the horizon, he cast his net for the first time. The water sparkled gold and blue, but when he drew it back, it was filled with only seaweed and broken shells. He smiled softly. "Patience," he whispered. "The sea gives when the sea is ready." The second cast brought up stones, smooth and glistening from the deep. The third, a few pieces of driftwood. Still the fisherman hummed a small tune, a tune as old as the sea itself. Then came the fourth cast. He threw his net wide and waited, feeling the rhythm of the waves tugging gently at the ropes. When he pulled, he felt something heavy, heavier than any fish. The net resisted, straining against the current, until at last something strange and gleaming broke the surface. It was a large brass jar, sealed with a lid carved with ancient markings. Its surface glimmered faintly in the morning light, as though it held the memory of stars within it. The fisherman set it upon the sand, curious and cautious. He brushed off the seaweed and examined the seal, thick with darkened wax and symbols of kings long forgotten. He turned it gently in his hands. "Perhaps there's treasure inside," he murmured, his voice carried away by the wind. "Or perhaps a story waiting to be told." The sea lapped quietly at his feet, as though watching. The sun climbed higher, spilling warmth across the waves. And somewhere deep beneath the sound of the tide, the jar seemed to hum faintly. A sound too soft to name. The fisherman examined the jar carefully. It was heavier than he expected, and the metal felt warm in his hands, as if it had been sleeping under the sun for centuries. He ran his fingers over the strange symbols etched on the lid. No one in the village had ever seen markings like these. And yet, there was something inviting about the jar, something that whispered, "Open me." With a gentle breath, he pressed the lid, and the jar shivered softly in his hands. A thin wisp of smoke rose from the seal, curling slowly, twisting like a ribbon in the morning air. The fisherman stepped back a little, heart beating calmly, yet aware that something unusual was stirring. The smoke thickened, coiling higher, shimmering with a faint golden light. And then, from the swirling haze, a figure began to form. Tall, vast, and impossibly powerful, with eyes that glimmered like molten stars. It was a genie, awakened from a sleep that had lasted centuries. "You, mortal," the voice rumbled, low and vast, echoing like distant thunder over the waves. "I am the mighty genie bound long ago, now released." The words carried weight, and yet there was a strange stillness in them, a pause that made the fisherman's heart beat slowly, measured. The fisherman's voice was soft, deliberate. "Mighty One, I mean no harm," he said. "I found you, but I seek only curiosity, not conflict." The genie's eyes narrowed, a faint swirl of smoke circling his head. "Curiosity?" he asked. "For centuries I have been trapped in that tiny jar, my freedom stolen, my power confined. And now you dare to speak to me?" The fisherman remained calm, letting the wind wash over him, the soft waves brushing his feet. "I have only spoken because I respect what has come before me," he said gently. "And I wish only to see what story lies within this jar." The genie's smoke twisted and writhed, rising higher into the sky. Then, slowly, he formed into a humanoid shape, looming above the fisherman, yet somehow patient. "Very well," the genie said finally. "You are not like the others who would fear me or strike me. Perhaps you will be different." The fisherman took a deep breath, feeling the rhythm of the sea around him. He realized that the jar, the smoke, even the genie itself, were all part of a story waiting to unfold. And stories, he knew, required patience above all else. Soft waves plus wind continue. Gentle, magical hum faintly. The genie's presence filled the air, a calm power that made the fisherman pause. And then, with a deep, echoing sigh, the genie settled slightly, no longer moving violently but watching, as if testing the fisherman's resolve, his wisdom, his patience. The fisherman knelt beside the jar for a moment, softening his stance, whispering to the sea, "Show me what you are, Great One. I will listen. I will learn." And so, the genie hovered quietly, the smoke curling lazily around him. The morning sun reflecting softly off the waves, the wind murmuring through the palm trees, all of it waiting for the next moment, the next choice, the next part of the story to unfold. The fisherman stood quietly, the genie's shadow falling across the sand. For a long while, neither spoke. The sea was the only voice, whispering softly against the shore. Finally, the genie's form began to shift again, his voice low and heavy, like waves rolling in deep water. "Mortal," he said, "for freeing me, I am bound by ancient law to grant you one thing. But before I give, I must confess a truth." The fisherman tilted his head slightly, listening. He said nothing, only nodded as if inviting the genie to continue. "For many centuries," the genie continued, "I waited for someone to open my prison. In the first 100 years, I swore I would reward whoever freed me with riches and glory. But no one came. In the second 100 years, I swore I would grant power beyond measure. Still, no one came. And as time passed, century after century, I grew bitter. In anger, I swore that if ever someone freed me, I would destroy them." The fisherman blinked slowly. He did not tremble. His voice was calm, quiet, steady, the kind of voice that could soothe even a storm. "So," he said softly, "you wish to destroy me?" The genie's eyes glowed faintly, the air thick with magic. "It is my oath," he said. "I am bound by it." The fisherman smiled faintly, not in fear but in understanding. "I see. Then before you do, grant me one small request," he said gently. "Show me how such a great being as you could possibly fit inside that tiny jar." The genie hesitated. His smoky form wavered, uncertain. "You do not believe I could?" he rumbled. "Oh, I believe," the fisherman said kindly. "But my mind cannot imagine it, such power, such vastness, inside something so small." The genie straightened, proud. "I shall show you, mortal. Watch and see." And with that, his smoky body began to twist and shrink, folding in on itself like mist drawn into a bottle. The golden light condensed, swirling faster and faster, until the last wisp of his being vanished into the brass jar. The fisherman waited, patient, quiet, breathing slowly. He stepped forward, placed the lid gently back on top, and sealed it tight. Then, for the first time, he laughed softly, a warm, quiet laugh that drifted across the waves. "Wisdom," he said to himself, "is worth more than power." He sat down beside the jar, listening to the muffled voice inside, faint and distant now. "Mortal! Release me!" the genie's echo cried, but the fisherman only smiled, shaking his head. "I will release you, mighty one," he said slowly, "but only if you promise to do no harm." The sea breeze carried his words, calm and certain, to where the waves met the horizon. There was no anger in his tone, no pride, only quiet understanding. He waited, eyes half closed, until the genie's voice softened. "I swear it," came the echo from within the jar. "I swear, by the sea and by the stars, that I will harm no one." The fisherman nodded. He lifted the seal once more, slowly, carefully. The smoke flowed out again, slower this time, gentler, almost graceful. And as it took shape once more, the genie bowed his head, his glowing eyes softer than before. "You are wiser than I imagined," he said quietly. "You have taught me humility." The fisherman smiled, his gaze on the endless water. "Perhaps," he murmured, "we both have learned something today." The genie's form shimmered above the sand, softer now, smaller somehow, no longer towering but peaceful, like a cloud resting low on the horizon. He looked down at the fisherman with something rare in his glowing eyes. "Respect. You have shown wisdom greater than any king," he said quietly. "I was proud, and my pride trapped me longer than the seal itself. Your calm heart freed me twice, once from the jar and once from myself." The fisherman only smiled, the lines on his face creasing gently like ripples on still water. "The sea teaches patience," he said. "It changes with time, but it never forgets how to be calm." The genie bowed his head. "Then allow me to thank you, not with destruction, but with peace." He waved his hand slowly, and from the edge of the sea, the waves began to shimmer. The water turned clear as glass, and beneath it, golden fish swam lazily, their scales gleaming like sunlight through honey. "These waters shall be kind to you," said the genie softly. "Cast your net here each morning, and it will never come back empty. But remember, take only what you need." The fisherman nodded, the corners of his mouth lifting in quiet gratitude. "I will remember," he said, "and I will honor your gift." The genie smiled faintly, and the wind around them seemed to sigh with relief. For a long moment they stood together in silence, man and spirit both free from the weight of their own lessons. Then, with a slow swirl of smoke and light, The genie began to fade. The air shimmered where he had stood, the faint sound of wind and waves blending into one endless hush. The fisherman watched until the last glimmer disappeared into the sea breeze. He knelt down, placed his hand upon the sand, and whispered a small prayer of thanks. The sea whispered back, gentle, eternal, patient. From that day on, the fisherman lived as he always had, quietly, humbly, with gratitude. Each morning, he rose before dawn and walked barefoot to the water's edge. Each cast of his net brought enough to fill his basket, but never more. And as the sun climbed over the waves, he would sometimes pause, listening. When the wind blew just right, he thought he could still hear a faint, familiar voice, calm and deep, like thunder sleeping far away. It was the genie's voice, carried on the breath of the ocean, and it said softly, "Wisdom lives where patience dwells." The fisherman smiled at the sound, then cast his net one more time, just as the sea turned golden beneath the morning light. And somewhere beyond the horizon, the story drifted, timeless, quiet, waiting for another listener. Perhaps one who, tonight, listens as their eyes begin to close. You've traveled far tonight, through the quiet sands and shifting tides, through the whispers of wind and the calm voice of a fisherman who taught us something simple and eternal. That peace isn't something we find in treasure or in wishes granted by magic. It's something that lives quietly within us, just waiting for us to slow down long enough to hear it. As the waves roll in and out again, feel your breath follow their rhythm, in and out, like the tide, steady, gentle, endless. The story has drifted away now, beyond the horizon, but its calm remains, in the air, in the sea, and in the soft hum of your thoughts slowing down. Let your eyes grow heavier, your body quieter, each breath slower than the one before. If a thought comes, let it drift by, like a cloud on an open sky. There's nowhere to go, nothing to do. Just listen and rest. Tomorrow will come in its own time. But for now, the sea is still. The world is soft, and you are safe. This has been Boring Folk Tales, where every story ends in stillness. Until next time, good night, dreamer. Sleep well.